This is the ultimate beginner's guide to building muscle after 40. If you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s and new to building muscle, in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the simplest 9-step guide you can use to get stronger, build muscle, and avoid the slow decline most men face as they age. I'm Rio and I help busy men over 40 transform their bodies using my polarity method, which is a 2 workout per week minimalist fitness system. I've taken my own body from this to this, and while I'm not over 40, I coach men who are every single day, so I know it works for your body at this stage of life. The first step is to understand how muscle is even built in the first place. So building muscle is extremely simple. It follows a 3-step cycle. Step 1 is stress, step 2 is recover, step 3 is adapt. This is literally all building muscle comes down to. You have to stress your muscles, your body has to recover from that stress, and through recovering from that stress, it adapts through getting bigger and stronger. The reason this is important for you to understand is because it is going to be the foundation of everything you do when it comes to building muscle. It's very, very simple, but the kicker is that you have to repeat this very consistently. Now that you understand how muscle building works at first principles, we need to pick the right exercises for you because the exercises are the tools that we're going to use to create stress and stimulate muscle growth. So the reality is that you don't need dozens of different exercises in the gym. You only need a few good ones that work your whole body. And so all you really have to do at the end of the day to build muscle is just get stronger at a handful of exercises. That's really it. Simplified down to its core. That's it. And the exercises that you want to focus on getting stronger at are compound exercises. So in the gym, there are 2 different types of exercises that you can do. You can do compound exercises or you can do isolation exercises. So compound exercises are movements that work multiple joints and muscle groups at a time. An example of this would be a squat or a deadlift or a bench press. Now, isolation exercises, on the other hand, are movements that work single joint and muscle group at a time. So an example of that could be a bicep curl or a calf raise. Now, you want to place most of your focus on compound exercises because they're the most effective exercises for building muscle and strength. The reason being is very simple. There are 3 reasons actually. The first is that they work a lot of muscle mass at a time, which makes them very efficient muscle building exercises. The next thing is that you can load them very heavy. And that's important because to stress your muscles, you have to challenge your muscles. And to challenge your muscles, you have to lift relatively heavy weights. And you can do that with compound exercises. They're very well suited to that. You can load them heavier than most other movements. Now, the third reason is that they have a big potential for strength gain. So you can get very strong at them over time. And that's important because the stronger you can get at an exercise over time, the more muscle you will be able to build through that exercise. So that's why you want to focus mostly on compound exercises. Now, you do want to include some isolation exercises, but they serve a different purpose. They serve the purpose of shoring up weak links and plugging the gaps left by the compound exercises. You might be wondering now, how do I pick these compound exercises? Well, most people make this way too complicated. It's not complicated at all. Like, exercise selection has become this like big amorphous thing that very few people understand. It's very simple, and this is where a framework I've created called the Core 6 comes into play. So the Core 6 is an exercise selection framework that completely cuts through the noise and makes things very simple. The reason why it's called the Core 6 is because there are 6 fundamental movement patterns that exist for human beings. We have squats, we have hip hinges, which is a deadlift of some kind, we have horizontal pushes, which is a chest press of some kind. We have horizontal pulls, which is a rowing movement of some kind. Then we have vertical pushes, which is an overhead press of some kind. And then vertical pulls, which could be a lat pull down or a chin up or a pull up. And so if you hit on all of these movement patterns and you pick a really good exercise for each of these, you will cover all of the muscle mass in your body. And that's why it's such an effective framework, because it simplifies things. And as long as you have a key exercise for each of these movement patterns, you will be in a very good place. Now, once you pick these exercises, all you have to do is then add a couple of smaller exercises, in other words, isolation exercises for the smaller muscle groups like arms and abs, the muscle groups that don't get hit quite as hard through these main compound exercises. And so once you've done that, you've picked your exercises. Congratulations. And then the next thing is basically to learn proper form. And so that is beyond the realms of what I can cover in this video because that could honestly take multiple videos. I have literally like probably 50 plus exercise tutorials in my program that my clients refer to. So like it's not something that I can cover in this video, but that would be a really important step once you picked your exercise, to actually learn how to do them so that you can avoid injury and set a strong foundation from the start. By the way, guys, just to pause the video for a second, the info in this video is absolutely a great start, but if you want the fastest results, you need a plan that's personalized to you with expert guidance, support, and accountability to follow through and avoid wasting time. So if you want my help putting this into action so you can take the guesswork out of the equation and finally love what you see in the mirror, just click the link in my description below and book a free call with me. On that call, we'll break down where you are now, pinpoint what's keeping you stuck, and map out the best plan to get you where you want to be. Now that you've picked your exercises, the third step is to train full body twice a week. So this is the most ideal workout split for men over 40. So once you've picked your exercises, essentially all you have to do is then split them up. And the most effective way that I've seen for men over 40 to split their exercises is with a simple full body twice a week setup. So full body twice a week is very self-explanatory. It's simply where you train your entire body 2 times per week on non-consecutive days. So from what I've seen for myself and for my clients, this is the simplest, most sustainable, most practical, most effective workout split that you can do. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering right now, wait, what? 2 workouts per week? There's no way that's enough. Well, the fitness industry has brainwashed you to believe that you need to be in the gym 5+ days a week. That is simply not true. In fact, when you're over 40, less is more, because recovery becomes incredibly important as you get older because your ability to recover decreases. And so if you train too much, you can actually have the opposite effect to where you lose muscle and strength. So when you're over 40, you have to really prioritize your recovery. Make sure that you leave enough rest days between workouts to let your body recover. Because if you remember the first step we talked about, remember the 3-step cycle. We have stress, recover, and adapt. And the most important of these is really recovery, because that's where the muscle growth happens. And if you do not have enough recovery time, you can stress your muscles as much as you want, but you're not going to grow because you're not giving them time to recover and rebuild bigger and stronger. So full body twice a week strikes the perfect balance between stimulus and recovery. So now that you understand this, all you have to do is take those core 6 exercises that you chose and the couple of smaller exercises for your weak points, and then simply divide them. And the way that I have found is most effective to divide them is to basically take your squat, your vertical push, and your vertical pull, and then 2 to 3 isolation exercises, and place that on one day. And then on the other day, you want to take your deadlift, your horizontal push, and your horizontal pull, and the 2 to 3 smaller isolation exercises, place that on the other day. So it's very simple, right? So you can see how this has sort of progressed now. You can see where this is going. You simply take those exercises and you split into 2 different days. So now you should have your exercises picked, and you should also have the general workout structure set up, your 2 full body workouts per week. So now the 4th step is to pick the number of sets that you're going to do per exercise in each of these workout routines. Now, when it comes to weight training, you basically have your exercises, and then you have your sets, and then you have your repetitions. So if you just say, I'm doing squats, that doesn't really mean anything, right? You need to have a structure for how you're going to conduct those squats. And that structure is sets and reps. So whenever you're going into training, you should have an idea of how many sets you're going to do of that exercise and how many repetitions you're going to do in each of those sets. And so when it comes to weight training, 2 to 3 sets per exercise are more than enough if you push them hard. And pushing things hard in weight training just means pushing to where you can basically no longer move the weight despite exerting maximal effort. This is also known as training close to failure, and it is a requirement for stimulating maximum muscle growth. And so if you've consumed any fitness content in your entire life, you've probably been led to believe that more sets equals more gains. But that is far from the truth, because doing more sets tends to lead to a dilution of effort to where you are spread thin. So the best example to illustrate this point is to imagine that you're going into a workout, let's say you're doing squats, and you have to do 5 sets for squats. The mindset that you're likely going to approach these 5 sets with is a mindset of conserving your energy, conserving your intensity, or in other words, conserving how hard you push. So what happens is that since you have to do 5 sets, subconsciously you're like, oh my God, I've got 5 sets to get through. I better hold myself back so I can make it through all of these 5 sets. So what happens is that you end up doing 5 sets, but you do them with half-ass effort because you have to conserve your energy and your intensity in order to make it through all these sets. Whereas now, picture going into your squats and you only have to do 2 sets. You're going to approach these 2 sets with a completely different mindset. It is going to be a mindset of, oh, I've only got 2 sets. I have to make these sets count. So what you're going to do is you're going to push yourself much harder in these 2 sets. And fundamentally, training hard is much more important than training long. In other words, quality is much more important than quantity. And the reason being is because effort and how hard you push is really what is responsible for stimulating muscle growth. It doesn't matter how much sets you do if you just put half-ass effort into those sets. It's much more effective to do fewer sets, but actually make them count and push them harder. So by now, you have the entire workout structure set up. You know what exercises you're going to do, you know how many days per week you're going to train and the structure you're going to follow, and you know how many sets you're going to do per exercise, and you know how to apply yourself to those sets. Now, the next step is to progressively overload those exercises. And all progressive overload means is just adding weight to these exercises over time. And fundamentally, this is the most important principle in muscle building, because if you do not add weight over time, your body won't change. Because at first principles, your body is an adaptation machine. So the stress that you are currently subjecting your muscles to will at some point become impotent. It will not create stress because your body will have adapted to be able to handle that stress. And so in order to continue stimulating muscle growth over time, you have to continue to increase the stress that you subject your muscles to. And the easiest way to do that is to continue adding weight over time, right? If you do not add weight, your body will not change because you are simply not giving it a reason to. So the way that you want to do this is you want to start light. So when you're first getting into this routine, start light and then just try to add a little bit of weight every single week. You're aiming for a steady increase over time. You just want to see an upward trend in your strength over time. And if you see an upward trend in your strength, that means that you are gaining muscle. So now we've covered the most important considerations when it comes to training for muscle growth. It is truly that simple. There's really nothing more to it. Anything beyond that is really just overcomplicating it. Those are the fundamentals that you really have to focus on when it comes to weight training for building muscle over 40. Now, step 6, we need to talk about eating for muscle growth, right? Because you could be training perfectly, you could have your training dialed in, but if you're not fueling that process, nothing's really going to happen. So fundamentally, all you really have to do when it comes to eating for muscle growth is to eat in a small calorie surplus. So basically, you have a certain amount of calories that you need to eat every single day in order to stay exactly where you are right now with your current body and your current weight. Now, the thing is, to fuel muscle growth, you have to have a slight surplus of calories, of energy, in order to fuel this muscle building process, because muscle isn't built out of thin air. You have to provide your body the building blocks in order to create new muscle tissue. And those building blocks are essentially energy and protein, right? So you basically want to create a small calorie surplus. The best calorie surplus for muscle growth is literally just 200 calories above your maintenance level. That's really all you need. And really you should be aiming for about 1 pound or 2 of scale weight per month. So you should be seeing your weight go up each month by 1 to 2 pounds. If you're doing that and you see your strength going up, that is a very good indication that you are gaining lean muscle mass and not gaining excess body fat. Now, beyond the calorie intake, you just have to make sure that you're getting sufficient protein. And the fitness industry has really led people to believe that they need way more protein than they actually do. But that kind of just comes from, people trying to push like protein powders and different protein supplements. So they exaggerate the need for protein, but you really don't need that much to maximize muscle growth. It's actually like very, very little compared to what most people believe. All you really need is about 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. So just take your body weight, multiply it by 0.8. That should really just give you your protein intake. You shouldn't need much more than that. In fact, I've actually gotten away with building significant muscle mass with even less, right? And then basically beyond that, just get a balance of carbohydrates and fats. That's it. You don't need to cut out certain foods to build muscle or cut out food groups or macronutrients. It's not necessary. All you have to do, make sure you're hitting the right calorie intake, which just means eating in a small calorie surplus, get enough protein, and then just get a balance of fats and carbs. Eat a balanced diet that is mostly focused on whole foods, so single ingredient foods. And then you can also be flexible and enjoy your diet and include, some foods you want to include, maybe like a dessert or maybe whatever. I like to follow an 80-20 rule to where 80% of my diet is mostly healthy whole foods, and then 20% is usually a dessert or something else that I want to fit in. Now, step 7 is to make sure that you sleep enough. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this because this is quite self-explanatory, but at the end of the day, if you don't sleep, you don't grow, because it is during sleep where you actually build muscle. This is where that recovery process happens that leads to that adaptation in new muscle and strength. So try to aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. So at this point, we have your training dialed in, we have your nutrition dialed in, and we have your sleep and recovery dialed in. Now, step 8 is to track religiously. Now, this is one of the more overlooked factors when it comes to body transformation, but it's honestly the most important thing, because what gets measured is what gets managed. And tracking the KPIs, or the key performance indicators relating to your body transformation process, takes away all of the guesswork. And so if you're in a position right now to where you've tried lots of different things, and maybe you're like trying stuff right now and you don't know why it's not working, you're kind of up in the clouds, I can guarantee you it's because you're not tracking things closely. Because when you track the KPIs, the key metrics relating to your body transformation, you'll always know what's going right and what's going wrong and what you need to fix. So some of the key things that you need to track are your workouts, your calories and protein, and your body weight. These are the key things that you need to really keep a close eye on, because these are like the core drivers of your body transformation. You have to track your workouts in the sense that when you're doing a workout, whenever you finish a set, the first thing you should do should be to pull out your phone or pull out your notebook and write down, what weight did I use and how many reps did I get? Because without these concrete reference points, you don't know what you need to do to progress in the next workout. So I sort of take care of all this for my clients through providing them a custom app. So we consolidate all of the key things in one place so that they can just track, and I can see that data and I can make sure everything's going smoothly and that, they don't have to worry about it at all. But if you're doing this on your own, then, you can use like a notebook or some sort of app on your phone to keep concrete reference points of what you're doing in the gym. This is like one of the easiest things that can get your progress moving when it comes to weight training. It's to literally just start tracking your workouts. Because if you track your workouts, you'll know what you need to do to progress. Because you'll see, oh, last week I got this many reps with this weight. Oh, this week I'll try and add a rep. Or this week I'll try and add some weight. Without those reference points, you don't know what the hell you're doing. It's truly that simple. And then you need to track your calories and protein, because those are the two biggest levers when it comes to your nutrition. And then also track your body weight so that you can see if you are in fact eating the right amount of calories or not. Your body weight will tell you if you're eating enough, like maybe you're eating too little, maybe you're eating too much and you're gaining too much weight. Track your body weight so you can keep an eye on that as well. Now, step 9 is to simply stick with the same program. So results demand consistency, not novelty. Okay, so too many guys over 40 have shiny object syndrome. They're always trying to find the next best thing. But the reality is that if you're constantly jumping between methodologies and different programs, different diets, you're never going to get anywhere, man. You have to stick with the same program far beyond the point at which it gets boring. That's just the reality. And a lot of you guys, that probably sucks to hear. Whatever, it's the reality. You have to pick one thing and stick to it long enough to actually see it through and get results. There's no such thing as a perfect program. The best program is the one that you stick to, I always give this sort of analogy, like the person who has perhaps a crappier workout plan, but actually stays consistent with it, will always beat the guy who is constantly seeking the most perfect plan, but is jumping between different things. So at the end of the day, you just have to stay consistent with something. And really the problem here is that a lot of you guys watch too much fitness content, man. I know that doesn't go for all of you, but I've seen that that's just kind of the problem. Because if you watch too many different fitness influencers and all this different shit, you're just going to get confused and you're going to start questioning what you're doing and you're going to start jumping between different things. It's like, man, pick one person, pick one methodology and just stick to it, man. Like, just stick to it. Like, it doesn't even have to be mine. Like, for the love of God, just pick something and stick with it long enough. I mean, mine is proven. It's worked for so many men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So it works. So at that point, you just have to ask yourself, do you want novelty or do you want results? And that's a serious question. I've asked that to many of my clients in the past. Like, do you want novelty or do you want to actually get results? Because getting results is boring. You're just going to have to stick to the same boring shit week after week until you get to where you want to be. Because novelty and jumping between things is just a recipe for failure. If you enjoyed this video, you're gonna love this video right here where I actually take you through one of these full body workouts so that you can see what it looks like in practice.